Welcome back to NaNoWriMo Vlogs, Preptober vlog number 3. So this one is going to be a little less vloggy and a little more chatty, specifically because today I have some tips and tricks for how to win NaNoWriMo. So just some things to start thinking about as you prepare for November. I've mentioned it already, but just to kind of reiterate, this is my first official NaNoWriMo, so I didn't actually realize that it existed until earlier this year. So you may be wondering, Kayla, how are you giving tips on how to win NaNoWriMo when this is your first official NaNoWriMo? Which is a fair question. So I haven't done the official NaNoWriMo month, but I have participated using the website 3 times over this past year and met my goals every single time, and I think that my strategy's been different every time. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about things that have helped me throughout that process, and hopefully you guys can pick up some useful tips, and these will help better prepare you for NaNoWriMo in November. So tip number 1 is to adapt a nano lifestyle. So by that, I just mean that there are aspects of your lifestyle that you'll have to switch around in order to spontaneously write 50,000 words in a month. Most people don't do that, and therefore that's not part of their regular lifestyle. So in order to be successful at that without completely burning yourself out, hating your project by the end of it, and just to kind of successfully complete NaNoWriMo and do it in a way that's healthy, I think you have to change your lifestyle a little bit and at least start to do that in Preptober so that you're more prepared for when you have to sit down and write tens of thousands of words over the course of a month. There are a couple of things that I consider when kind of adapting a more nano-friendly lifestyle. The first one is to develop some sort of food plan. It doesn't have to be a super strict, like, fitness meal plan. I just think that it's important for you to sit down for 10 minutes or something and just come up with some easy meal ideas that will last a while in the fridge and that you can easily get the ingredients for, things you're comfortable making, things that are easy to make. And just make sure that you're not going to be scrambling to make yourself meals throughout this process when you could be using that time for writing. Also within this tip is to set social media limits. For me, TikTok is a black hole when it comes to social media. So I usually will go through phases where I just delete TikTok, and NaNoWriMo will probably be one of those phases. I might re-download it like one day per week, but for the most part, it will not be on my phone. If you are someone that gets sucked into Twitter or Instagram, think about setting daily limits, because in my experience of life so far, there is nothing that is a bigger time suck than social media. So make sure that you're prepared to really limit your social media use if that's something that you do a lot of, because you can save hours per day by doing that and therefore have extra hours to meet your NaNoWriMo goal. Make sure that you know where you're going to write and when you're going to write. So that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to pick a specific time every single day to write. It just means understand how your process is going to work best. So maybe you're someone who just needs to write whenever they can possibly have time to write if you're super busy. Maybe you're someone who wants to wake up super early in the morning when there are no distractions at 5 o'clock in the morning and get 2 hours of writing out before school or work. Start to plan how you are going to actually meet those goals and start to make sure that you have an environment and a schedule that is going to work with those goals. 50,000 words in 1 month it's a lot. So really try to adapt to the idea that you are a writer that month, because for November, you are a writer. Even if you've never written before, that is now your life for that entire month. So make sure you're setting yourself up for success when it comes to your lifestyle. Make sure that you can adapt your lifestyle to the lifestyle that you're gonna have to live in order to meet those goals. And the final part of that kind of adjusting your lifestyle is to tell people in your life that you're doing NaNoWriMo. I know that when I lived in a house with a bunch of people, telling them that this was a challenge I was doing not only helped because a lot of the time it meant they were aware that if I was in my room for hours on end, I was probably writing. They were also wonderful people and therefore would motivate me if I was like, oh, I don't think I'm gonna hit my word goal today. they knew that I was doing it, and therefore could motivate me. So tell the people in your life, and then hopefully you get understanding from them, and also maybe even encouragement if they feel like it. Make sure that people are aware that it's a goal for you and that it's an important goal. My next tip, this one is a little smaller, and that is just to get specific about daily goals. When you're writing 50,000 words in a month, I believe that works out to 1,667 per day. There are going to be some days when you maybe can't write. Not everyone is going to have time to write that 1,700-ish words every single day. Maybe you're going on holiday, maybe you want to have every single Sunday off. That's totally fine, but just think about that in advance so that you can kind of calculate how many words you'll need to get done on the days you are writing. Because if you have like 8 days off in the month, then obviously you're going to have to write probably closer to 2,000 and above words on the days when you actually are writing. So get specific about your daily word goals, because otherwise you're kind of setting yourself up for failure in that you're going into it thinking that you're actually going to write that 1,700 every day, and then maybe something happens and you can't, and then you start to feel bad, and that's not what we want for NaNoWriMo. My third tip is to get an accountability community. This kind of works if you know other people who write already. Being a writer is very isolating and it's kind of lonely. You're by yourself a lot. Because you're kind of creating this own world from your imagination and from just your brain. So having people who are also on that same journey is super motivating, and especially if they're participating in NaNoWriMo, it's a great way to be held accountable because there are other people who are doing the same challenge as you, and you're kind of more excited about it because you know that you're not alone, everyone's going through it. There's power in community, especially when it comes to things like this. So see if you can find yourself a NaNoWriMo community. If you don't have one, I have a Discord server that I've created for my Patreon if you're interested. It's available for all of the tiers, so no matter what tier you pay for, you can get onto the Discord server. And there's a specific channel for writing. So if you want some accountability help, I will be on that Discord every single day, sending out like little quotes and kind of checking in to see how everyone's doing. So if you need a community, let me know and I can add you to the Discord. Or if signing up for Patreon isn't really something that's feasible for you, then also let me know your NaNoWriMo username down below and I'll just be buddies with you on Nano, and then we can motivate each other through that. My fourth tip is to prep for NaNoWriMo in a way that works for you. I've already mentioned it before, there is a Prep 101 workbook that you can work through in order to plan out your novel if that's something that works for you. I'll leave it linked down below so that you can find it. It's totally free, it's just like a PDF workbook. But I already know from that experience that there are a couple activities in there that really don't work for my style of developing a story. So don't try to force yourself to follow something like that if it's not working. Again, the last thing you want is to be ridiculously stressed during Preptober, because then it's not even going to be fun when you finally start NaNoWriMo. If you're new to writing, start to explore different processes that other authors use, and kind of just, my strongest suggestion is to just start word dumping. Just take everything in your brain and get it out on paper and use that to start planning. So find a way to prep that is going to work for you and that isn't going to stress you out. You don't have to follow the Nano prep guidelines if that's not going to work for you. But on that same note, prep nonetheless. Still do prep, some sort of preparation, even if you're a pantser. Diving into a 50,000 word month is probably going to be a lot more stressful for you if you have no preparation. So find what works for you, but do at least a little bit of preparation so that you're actually set up to start writing that story when November comes. My fifth tip is to trade details and edits for speed. Nano is kind of about speed. There's nothing wrong with your normal word count per day or word count per week being nowhere near what NaNoWriMo demands of you. And that's why NaNoWriMo is just 1 month. It's just a challenge month for speed. So in order to make sure that you're actually keeping up with that pace, I recommend not going back and editing anything, because I can get sucked into edits so quickly and then spend hours doing edits when I should have been writing the whole time. And you don't need to add all of the details in the first draft. It is about getting that 50,000 words out as fast as possible and getting the skeleton of the story. You don't need to flesh it out until afterwards when you start revising and editing. If you have research that you need to do, just make a little note of it in your writing so that you can do it later. If you have to come up with someone's name, don't take a break from writing just to come up with a name. Just call them nameless or something for now and then keep moving forward. Coming up with names is another thing that I can spend a long time doing. But those are little details that you don't have to have yet. And in a challenge like NaNoWriMo, it's probably not feasible for you to include all of those extra details and research and also still hit that word mark. Unless you have nothing else to do in November, then maybe you can do it. But I know that most of us have other things going on in our life. So trade adding those details and editing for speed instead. Focus on speed and just getting the words out. And if you really think about it, after you finish the first draft and start revising, everything's gonna change anyways. You're still gonna add those edits, so just don't do them now. Do them after NaNoWriMo is done, when you start cleaning up and revising that project. And my last tip is kind of just something that helps me, and that is to write down my purpose. And then I usually will like put it up on my wall or have it in the front of a notebook that I'm working from every single day. It's just easier to overcome challenges when you have a reason for overcoming them. Even if you're just doing NaNoWriMo for fun or just to challenge yourself, put down that that's what your purpose is. Put down, my purpose of this month is to have fun with my writing again and just get my writing out without worrying about edits and stuff. Put down, my purpose is to prove to myself that I can meet a goal like this and make myself proud. Put down that your purpose is to tell the stories that you think need to be told. Or maybe your purpose is to prove to yourself that you have the self-discipline to work on a craft like this. Your purpose can be anything. It's just important to have one, because otherwise, what are you going to kind of cling to when you're in the middle of November, you've written thousands of words and you start getting into a writing slump or you start getting writer's block? For me, having a purpose physically written down so that I can look at it and remember why I started is the main way that I am pulled out of the darkness when I get there when I'm writing. So write down what your purpose is going to be, and keep that close to you throughout the entire month. So those are 6 different tips that have kind of helped me to win NaNoWriMo. Beyond that, I just have a lot of coffee, a lot of late nights, and sometimes I just sit down at a computer and what I write makes absolutely no sense, and half of it is like my internal monologue sorting through things. But I hit the word count, you know, like that's the reality of it, is it's a messy month. It's not going to be a beautiful draft, and first drafts never are. A first draft is exactly what it needs to be, and it's perfect as long as it's finished. All you need to do is finish a first draft, and then that is the first step to it becoming a published book or a project that you get to show the world. You just have to get that first draft out. So I hope those were helpful. Let me know if you have any questions down below about Nano or my projects or anything that has to do with writing. In one of this week's later vlogs, I'm going to do kind of a little Q&A. So I've asked on my Instagram and on my YouTube, and I'm kind of collecting questions to answer. And my Patreon is down below as well, so you can see kind of extra tips and stuff on my Patreon, as well as joining a Discord where we can talk about writing if you want someone to kind of keep you accountable. And I will also link my NaNoWriMo down below so that you can find me if you want to be buddies on there. But I hope that you guys enjoyed this video and that you found it valuable. Don't forget to smile, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.